Use promo code Bloody Rhino for 15% off any order at Bloody Gaming. Link in description. Use promo code Red Rhino for 10% off at pulselabs.com. Link in description. So Farming Simulator 19 just recently came out the other day. It's made by Giant Software and published by Focus Home Interactive, and it is available now on Xbox, PS4, and Steam, retailing at $50 for consoles and $35 on Steam. Farming Simulator 19 is the newest installment to the Farming Simulator series. This game features many new features and upgrades from the old games while keeping the same classic gameplay and feel that fans are used to. While it is a pretty realistic simulator, it remains accessible to players of all ages. The game is made easy to play by a bunch of different tutorials, help menus, and on-screen guides that you can always refer back to, or there's probably tons of tutorials online devoted to the game. Anyways, let's get into this official review. Just for reference, I have played Farming Simulator before. I had 15 and 17. So I do have some experience with the series. Now, upon starting the game, I immediately noticed that the graphics were massively improved, which I assume is due to their new graphics engine that they are using for this one. I'll break down the graphics a bit more later on. It has been some time since I last played Farming Simulator, so I decided to run through the tutorial missions real quick just to refresh myself. But as I mentioned earlier, this game is very easy for anyone to play after maybe like 10 minutes. Once you're already used to the controls and stuff. After the tutorials, I went on to start my career, which takes us to the topic of gameplay. When you first start career, you can pick 3 different options for your starting difficulty. There's New Farmer, where you start with some land, equipment, and money. And then there's a second option, which is Farm Manager, where you start with just some money and you don't get any land or equipment. And then the final option is where you start from scratch, where you literally have nothing and you have to take loans from the bank and all that to get stuff, and then you have to spend your time paying off your debt. I personally chose New Farmer just because I prefer to play the game on a more casual level rather than basically getting another job. Earlier on, I said that this game keeps its classic style of gameplay. If you're coming from previous Farming Simulator games, you can expect pretty much the same gameplay you're used to. If you're new to the series, the gameplay is frankly mundane, but that's not really a bad thing. That's exactly how a game like this should be, in my opinion. To me, that's actually the appeal of this game. You get on, you harvest your crops, you plow the field, you sow your seeds, and possibly throw down some fertilizer to get things popping, and then you start over again. Once you're in the groove of things, you can always step it up a notch and buy more land and fields and become a super farmer and manage a bunch of different fields at once. Land ownership works a bit differently now from the previous games. You can now buy mass amounts of land and do whatever you want with it. If you want to plant trees and do forestry, you could do that. If you want to turn it into a field, you could do that. You can also increase the difficulty of different elements in the game. You could change different settings for things like the rate you burn fuel. Don't worry, by the way, you could always speed up the game so things will grow faster, so you're not just sitting around kind of waiting. I should have mentioned that earlier probably. You can make it so crops go bad if you don't harvest them in time, and you could set it so your crops can be destroyed if you're driving over them. Also, just to mention real quick, I'm playing with an Xbox One controller for this gameplay you're seeing in the background, but this game can also be played on a wheel if you've got one, or you could always use your keyboard and mouse if you're on PC, just to throw that out there. I personally haven't used mine on this game yet, but I have on previous ones, and it's alright. It's pretty good, but I still kind of prefer the Xbox controller, I think. I think Logitech even makes a pretty crazy rig that features a bunch of buttons and levers and crazy stuff if you want to go hard and ball out on something like that. I think it's $250, but that's if you're extreme. As for graphics, they're actually pretty great. They've redone their graphics engine, like I mentioned. It truly shows. The old games, in my opinion, were always a bit flat and lifeless. This time around, if you have the hardware, this game can look really, really good. My only complaint is that some out-of-map objects lose quality and look kinda ugly, and I'll hopefully have put an example of what I'm talking about in this video. The main place where I've seen this is right off the back of the first farm on the US map. It's just kind of like a green blob of a mountain, and it's not a big deal, and it certainly doesn't speak for the whole game, but it definitely stands out from the great textures of everything else in the game. The lighting is great, colors are vibrant, and a perfect amount of contrast together create a feel of warmth and immersion. One of my complaints for most games is that they always up the contrast so hard that it's hard to look at. This game, they got it right. Other graphical improvements include more realistic foliage, improved lighting and particle effects, and better skyboxes. As for content, there's more than enough stuff in this game to keep you satisfied for a long time, and definitely for the life of the game. Off the bat, there's more than 300 vehicles and machines, as well as 2 maps. One is a town in the US and another is a town in Europe. The fact that there's only 2 maps may seem underwhelming. Do not fret, and here's why. Farming Simulator has a built-in mod storefront for all versions of the game, and yes, this means you can actually mod a console game. Right now there isn't much since the game's only been out for a couple days, but Giant Software has thrown us a bone with a modded map set in South America, as well as some vehicles and extra equipment. I think messing with mods may actually prevent achievements, but I don't really care. More content, especially free content, is better than achievements in the age of the microtransaction. I'd give it a few months and I'm sure there will be plenty of mods to add to your game. You may also be able to add more from other sources if you're on PC. I don't know if you could download some somewhere or something. But this is my first time owning a farming simulator on the PC, so I don't really know much about that side of it. Alright, so to continue with content, there are now more missions you can do. People will offer you jobs to complete for some extra cash. Granted, you have the equipment to do the job, but you can always lease the stuff you need to complete them if you don't own it, and they've also removed the time limits so you can take as long as you need to complete them. These also can be completed online as co-op missions. This game also features forestry. They've had it for the past 2 games now. I personally can't stand it, but that's only because I don't have the patience to basically play a mix of a skill crane claw machine and some pickup sticks. Though the equipment is really techy and cool, and there isn't much in this world that's more fun than running around and cutting stuff with a chainsaw. Just ask my boy Leatherface. They also added cotton to the game. You can plant, grow, harvest cotton for the first time in a farming simulator. In order to harvest cotton, you need to use unique machinery with dedicated harvesters and trailers, all new to Farming Simulator 19. This game has animals, and the animal stuff, which has always been a pretty ignored feature of these games, has returned, and it's a bit better with more animals such as cows, sheep, chickens, pigs, and for the first time, horses. The horses are rideable, which is pretty cool. You can use them to get around if you don't want to buy a truck or something. They've also introduced oats, and you can use those to feed your horses. You could also have a pet dog that you can play fetch with in between tasks. You can place pens for various animals and breed them. And some animals will also produce manure and slurry that you can use to fertilize your field. And chickens will give you eggs and cows will give you milk and stuff. Sheep will give you wool. The game does feature multiplayer. 16 players on PC, 6 on console. In multiplayer, players can have up to 8 separate farms, each with its own land, vehicles, equipment on the same map, and it creates a bit of friendly competition if you want to have the best farm. One of my only complaints for this game is that there is no VR support. It would have been nice to have. I like my simulators to have VR because you get like a little more immersive gameplay from it, and it's cool. But I do understand that VR is not like a common thing. It's also very resource intensive, not only on the development side, but also the hardware side, and not everybody has a PC that can run VR, especially on a game that's like as detailed as Farming Simulator, so it all makes sense. So at the end of the day, the question is, should you skip the game altogether, wait for a sale, or buy it now? First, I'm going to speak to the players from previous Farming Simulator games, or those who enjoy the genre. The popular consensus of this game seems to be that it almost feels like a DLC for the previous ones. While I do agree that's slightly true, I would also disagree and say that the way better graphics engine and extra features, as well as it just being a newer game, make it worthy of a buy. There just won't be as many mods for a little bit, but they will come eventually as more people buy the game and people remake their old mods for this game. It'll happen. Personally, I'm completely satisfied with the game, especially at this price point of $35 on the PC. I would say buy it. It's also a perfect time to pick it up if you're in the US. Thanksgiving break is about to start for people. That time is always my favorite time to dig into a new sim game like this, and winter break is coming soon as well. Now, to those who don't play many sim games, I do know there's a bit of a stigma to this sort of game. I know whenever I talk about X-Plane, Flight Simulator, iRacing, Project Cars, Car Mechanic Simulator, other farming simulators, to my non-sim playing friends, I might as well be talking about filing taxes or something like that. People just don't get the appeal. But I was also like that at one point. To be honest, I bought Farming Simulator 15, which is the first one I owned, in a bit of a joking manner, because I was like, oh, why not? It's on sale. But I quickly found out that it was a perfect mix of interesting, relaxing, and challenging to become one of my favorite series. It's a great game to put on some good music, pour yourself a nice drink or something, and farm the hell out of a field with some buddies too. Basically what my conclusion is whether you decide to buy the game or not, don't let the stigma that surrounds something be what makes your decision for you. You never know what you're gonna like until you try it. I love how I just got kind of deep in a farming simulator review. Anyways, I hope this review helped you out, and if it did, please hit that like button down below. And if you aren't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that bell thing so you can get notified for when I upload new videos. I do apologize if I missed anything. There was quite a bit to discuss on this game, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them down below in the comments. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. See y'all next time. Peace.